everyone, I'm Ayşe Gülistan, and this is Invest in Türkiye Talks. So what are we going to do throughout these series? We'll be talking everything related to investment, from FDI inflows to entrepreneurship, the investment infrastructure in Turkey, and trends and challenges that sectors may face in the near future. Today, I'm joined by İhsan Erbil Bayçöl, CEO of Enerjisa Üretim. İhsan, welcome to the podcast.
Many thanks. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you. Now, we're going to talk a lot about energy today and the new dimensions that the sector is trying to adapt to, including sustainability, climate change, and renewable energy resources. But before we get into any of that, İhsan, for our listeners who may not know about Enerjisa Üretim, can you tell us a bit about the company?
Let me try to define Enerjisa Üretim and what makes it a great business under four main prospects. First of all, scale and future-proof portfolio. Enerjisa Üretim for the time being owns and operates an installed capacity around 4,000 megawatt and 1,000 megawatt is under construction. The operational fleet consists of 27 power plants running through 5 different technologies. We have a fleet of wind, hydro, gas-fired power plants, solar, CCGT, and also an indigenous coal power plant. This installed capacity is helping us to command 4 to 5% of the country's consumption. And the diversified portfolio is, with its resistance to different external factors, is kind of the security element of the entire demand-supply equilibrium in the market. The second element that I would like to mention is the future-proof portfolio dimension of this portfolio. This diversified portfolio is helping us to be the address again for the demand-supply equilibrium in the market itself. Operational excellence is the second item that we are concentrating. We try to set the benchmarks to push every day for better and better. That is the concentration when we are running our power plants and also when we are trying to run our commodities business and at the same time the digital related aspects of the business. The strong financial performance is also another differentiating element of Enerjisa Üretim. Turkey is a growing country. The demand is growing. To address that demand needs, the strong financial performance of the company is helping us to pursue the greenfield investment opportunities. And the last but not least, the exciting renewable growth perspectives of the company. Right now, we are developing and constructing 1,000 megawatt wind park, which are called YEKA-2 projects. But at the same time, we are developing additional 500 megawatt wind project with battery storage. The company is having the appetite and also the ambition to perform further growth via greenfield projects and at the same time via bolt-on acquisitions.
Now, İhsan, you spoke about a diversified portfolio within the company. Can you expand on that? What does that mean?
There are two critical aspects of the business which define how you run the business and how you can differentiate yourselves among others. First of all, the end product that we do have is an indifferent product. At the end, whatever technology you use, you produce electrons. The second element is at any time, demand needs to be equal to supply. And the storage capability in this business is limited. Although the batteries are going to be an element of the business itself, it is really for the time being soon to talk about that they are the key elements of the network. So considering all these, that we do have an indifferent product and at any time demand needs to be equal to supply, the generation capability that you do have is via different technologies. And all these different technologies do have different characteristics that you need to be careful about. For instance, the renewable generation is an intermittent type of generation. You cannot control the sun, you cannot control the wind. You can only make certain expectations and certain estimations how you can generate on the following date or how much amount of generation capability that you will have on the following date. On the other side, on the base load type of power plants, such as gas-fired power plants or the lignite power plants, you have the control on the fuel, so you can define your operating regime. You try to match all these characteristics to properly address the demand and to reach the price that will make everyone happy, the generator companies, but at the same time the end users as well. This diversified portfolio that Turkey do have and also Enerjisa Üretim does have brings us additional advantages. We do have, for instance, reservoir type of hydros, where we can at least, to a certain part, control our generation capability. But if you do have a runoff river or wind park or solar, or let me rephrase the situation, if you have a generation fleet, but only consisting of solar, then you are at the mercy of the environmental conditions. All of a sudden, a cloudy day might damage all your expectations and plans, or vice versa. All of a sudden, when you were not thinking that you will not be able to generate on that specific date, you can come up with an extreme capacity that you originally did not plan to pump into the grid itself. So diversified portfolio is helping Turkey and also Enerjisa Üretim to properly address the market dynamics.
And these market dynamics have changed over time. Like you said, there's an increasing demand, but also we're in a digitalization phase now. Okay, we've got developing technology every day. There's something new, and obviously this affects the sector that you work in, which leads me to the question of how has Enerjisa Üretim changed or modified its strategy to be able to adapt to these new developments?
Yeah, that's a perfect question. The items that you highlight is what makes our business fun and enjoyable. And also keeping our everyday the motivation to do more and more. The business itself perceived to be a very conventional business, but at the same time, every day does have a different story and every day does require a different dynamism. One of the things that we pushed internally, we used an internal motto. We just said Enerjisa Üretim is an IT and digital company which happens to generate power and trades it. This motto pushed us to go forward and beyond for the digital capabilities. These digital capabilities, for instance, let me give you an example. In Turkey, if Istanbul and Ankara are experiencing cold weather at the same time, that's the point where the electricity prices are hitting the peak points. If Istanbul and the Mediterranean region is experiencing the hot weather at the same time, with high levels of humidity, that's the point where the electricity prices will be higher. But in March, April, if the snow melt is affecting the hydrology, then you have the lowest electricity prices in the market. Every day, every hour, you need to run a series of data analysis to properly address the demand and supply equilibrium, and also to match the perfect points that you will be able to capture in the market dynamism. So, in addition to the state-owned measuring stations, Enerjisa Üretim does have hundreds of inflow measuring stations, meteorological measurement stations. We do follow all sorts of market signals and inputs to come up with a better asset optimization, and also to position Enerjisa Üretim in the short or long positions in a proper manner to address our risk and return expectation. In terms of the digital capabilities, the luxury that I do personally have is the average age of Enerjisa Üretim is 35. So I was never in need of making a town hall speech to the organization that digitalization is a good thing, we should embrace it, so and so forth. It is in the DNA of the company. And if I may ask our organization to come up with version 1 of something, they do come up with version 15, an advanced version of what I do or what management originally thinks of. Or even they do address the latent demand elements which are not existing in the market, but they define that there is such a need and accordingly address the thing.
Thank you for that, Ihsan. In that answer, you mentioned that the energy sector and the companies that work in the energy sector are perceived as conventional, right? Because we were used to the way that energy was produced like 30 years ago. And now you mentioned the new technologies that you're working with. And this brings a lot of bad press to energy companies. We tend to pinpoint energy companies as those that are responsible for the mass environmental issues, and we want them to lead the way in the race to reduce carbon emissions and environmental responsibility. Now, within this, how does Enerjisa Üretim balance the need for economic growth with environmental responsibility, bearing in mind the Sustainable Development Goals and the target to reduce carbon emissions by 2053?
First of all, maybe I should start making a confession. I did say that the generation business is perceived to be a conventional business, and also the organizations. At the same time, I should be confessing that majority of them are really conventional and acting with the traditional manner. This is a phase that majority of the organizations are pushed to change. In addition to that, the technology is helping us to address the social dynamics and the environmental dynamics without really compensating from the main elements of it. Enerjisa Üretim is, for the time being, is executing these 1000 megawatt wind projects, all running and trying to be executed at the same time. It is one of the sizable projects that's happening right now all around Europe. Before we get into the construction sites, while running through the details of the engineering studies, our team, with a group of sociologists, had mobilized to the regions that we are going to build these power plants. We first try to better understand the region that we are going to have the executions, the needs of the public, and try to address how we can perform a very diligent work. The intention is not to do any project or execute anything against public. It is the intention to find a way to do it all together, that we will all be proud together. The business itself was having the conventional approach to address the demand by executing baseload power plants. That's how it had been run for decades. The demand was growing because of the population growth, because of the technology change, because of the lifestyle change. And to address those demand needs, organizations were, via sort of game theories, were selecting the locations to execute a baseload power plant. And the baseload power plant was mainly either the gas-fired power plants or the coal power plants. Right now, the advancement in the technology is helping us to address the demand with the wind power plants, with the solar power plants, and other renewable technologies. The battery is going to be very soon a very significant and critical element of this system as well. Enerjisa Üretim is having the intention to come up with the projects that the entire organization will be proud to share with their kids. That is the main criteria on the decision points. This is helping us to better assess the picture, not to be lost in the general flows of the business aggression. Instead, try to address the things properly together with the environmental needs and also the social needs. We should come up with being a benchmark, being a sample, being an organization that the other organizations also should be following. We try to show the environment, the ecosystem, that any activity, any effects should be analyzed with the short, medium, and long-term effects of it. And accordingly, the organization should take also the precautions to mitigate them. The proof that we are handling it in a different manner had been addressed by our score that we obtained for our CDP climate change reporting as well. We obtained an A- report, and this is also should be an encouraging element for the sector to see that the things could be handled in a much diligent and different manner.
This brings me on to my next question. You're aware that Turkey has the aim to achieve the net zero emission by 2053 and already has doubled its emission reduction target for 2030. And in line with what you already mentioned in terms of how Enerjisa Üretim is trying to change the way that it does business to be able to, address the environmental needs of today, are you doing anything specifically to make sure that you're in line with Turkey's target in this manner?
Enerjisa Üretim had the commitment to its all stakeholders that our growth will be via renewables. And that's a promise that we made at the beginning of 2020. In addition to that, Enerjisa Üretim will establish the benchmarks for the country and also the region, the proper just transition processes. Enerjisa Üretim does have a diversified portfolio. We do have gas-fired power plant assets, which are considered to be the elements that are going to support the renewable transition. Because of their cyclic behavior and the dynamics, they are able to have the system to accept more renewables. To give you an example, Enerjisa Üretim does have two gas-fired power plants assets located at South Marmara. They are the security of the grid for the time being. As you can imagine, Istanbul and its neighborhood is the power sink. And at any given day, this power sink is having an increasing demand. And at any given date, Bandırma 1 power plant and Bandırma 2 power plant is addressing the demand of this power sink. But in case of a deficiency of this power plant's operation, then the renewable fleet in the Marmara also will not be able to operate. Their intermittent supply is being balanced by our cyclic capabilities of these two power plants. That's one of the dimensions. The second is we are heavily investing on the renewables. We are investing on wind and solar. We do have a pipeline of 1.5 gigawatt wind growth. And right now we are aiming to initiate a 0.5 gigawatt growth on the solar side. We are in 1.5 years, we will be the pioneer of increasing wind installed capacity by 10% in the entire country. In the next 1.5 years, out of all two wind turbines that had been erected, one is going to be Enerjisa Üretim's. That is our promise and that's our commitment. At the same time, we do have a lignite asset. And for that asset, the just transition plan is also in place. That's how we are going to manage the carbon footprint of the organization. But we will not be limiting ourselves to do only and address the needs of Enerjisa Üretim. We will be setting the benchmarks for the country as well, how to handle the tasks to address the needs. I think Turkey does have a great potential over there and a great opportunity. The liberalization had commenced in 2006. At the time that I joined the organization, which was, I did turn back to Turkey and started to work for Enerjisa Üretim, it was 2008. The Turkey was having a huge growth on demand, almost 1.5 times of the GDP growth. Turkey was heavily in need of investing to the CCGT assets and other technologies. Back then, renewable project was costing millions of dollars. Typical wind project was having a cost around $7 million per megawatt, or the solar was also in the same range. Right now, Turkey had still not utilized its wind capacity and solar capacity. And at the same time, the advancement of the technology had helped us to reach more competitive project costs. Turkey could easily initiate a huge growth on the renewables, which will help the country to address the carbon emission and environmental elements, but at the same time make the country more competitive in the region itself. There is a huge potential, and I believe Enerjisa Üretim will be one of the leaders in helping Turkey to execute those projects.
And Ihsan, in Europe, there's a lot of talk about hydrogen. And that isn't quite on the agenda in Turkey at the moment. I mean, am I right to say that we don't talk about hydrogen as much as they do in Europe today? So in terms of that, how do you see hydrogen in the energy sector, in the growth of Turkey in general?
As you rightfully said, hydrogen is a more topic heavily discussed in Europe, and many projects are taking place. This is one of the bets that the countries are placing, especially in the pandemic period. Three sectors have differentiated from the others: the health, the power, energy, and agriculture and food. And starting with the pandemic and then boosted with the Russia-Ukraine invasion, the alternative supplies is becoming an element to address the supply security needs of the countries. Especially Germany in Europe is heavily pushing for the hydrogen implementations, and they're heavily pushing for green hydrogen as well. Hydrogen do have lots of colors. How you obtain hydrogen is determining the color of it, and Germany is heavily pushing on the green hydrogen. Turkey, for the time being, have the supply security being addressed on the absence of hydrogen. As we have just discussed, Turkey had not still utilized its entire renewable capacity on wind and solar. While executing those projects and reaching to the competitive power pricing, there could be points that hydrogen could be generated like a byproduct. And this could easily help Turkey to become a supply point of hydrogen, especially green hydrogen, to the Europe. And Turkey could easily become an energy exporter. That's an element that we need to be really ready at any time to take a position in the value chain. Having said that, the dynamics and the value chain elements of hydrogen is not settled yet. There are still questions, there are still elements to be defined and addressed in the value chain of hydrogen. Supply and demand is not properly addressed yet. Many countries is trying to take a position on those, and Turkey could easily address the need of Europe. And I do see it in the national energy plan of Turkey, with certain ambition and targets. I suppose we can come up with a really add value solutions to that.
And what are your overall thoughts on the current state of the Turkish energy market? I mean, you did mention the potential that it has and the growth that it's shown over the last 10, 20 years, but what do you foresee for the future? Where do we stand in this race?
Let's start with the demand side. In the last decades, we always see at every decade the consumption had doubled. The Turkey is a growing country. It's a young population. The lifestyle is also changing. The size of the household, the penetration of the technology, a typical household size or a typical lifestyle. My mom is almost 70 years old. It is a shame for her to use the washing machine, the dishwasher. But in a daily life, in our house, the dishwasher is always on. The technology is helping us to address majority of the demand needs with the renewable technologies, mainly wind and solar. Battery is going to be a very significant component of it. If maybe in 10 years we will get together and try to have another podcast, most probably the team that is working us together with us today will have electrical vehicles. And while we are having the podcast, our electrical vehicles is going to be a part of the grid itself. It will be selling electricity to the grid, or it will be charging its batteries from the grid. So the elements and its dynamics is also significantly changing. Turkey, among all these changes, do have the potential to be the technology center and to be the center of people and excellence as well. Right now, around Izmir, there is an ecosystem that had been established for the machinery and equipment of the wind parks. Almost 15,000 people are working to manufacture wind turbine generators, to manufacture wind turbine blades, to manufacture wind turbine towers, and all sorts of components of wind turbine. And those equipments are being exported to Europe, being exported to Asia and other continents. In addition to that, the growth in the installed capacity in wind and solar has helped us to come up with the best technicians of the world, the best engineers of the world. And those people are also started to go to the projects that are taking place in abroad, and they are taking critical roles on that. I suppose Turkey do have a great potential to become the technology center, the engineering center, and also the best people in the world to address the green transition that everyone needs to.
And as you know, Ihsan, the Investment Office launched the 2024-2028 Foreign Direct Investment Strategy in August this year, and the document precisely outlines what the country is looking out for, and they call it Quality FDI. And Quality FDI is understood as investments that contribute to the strong growth and sustainable development of Turkey's economy, while accelerating its technological transformation, global competitiveness, and support regional development within the country. So in line with this, what measures do you think can be taken to increase FDI in the energy sector?
The power business is a regulated business. Power business is a business that you heavily invest in data management, and especially with the game theory elements to take the position properly as per your risk return expectations and to capture the opportunities in the market. The regulation should be allowing the market players to really play, to really capability to rock and roll. That's one of the critical elements. The second is an in-depth trading capability is important. Unfortunately, subsidization was one of the elements that prevented to reach the in-depth trading. In Turkey, in the over-the-counter markets, we do see a horizon of 12 months to 16 months to trade power. In the developed countries, you do have a much longer horizon, and you do have all sorts of type of products, derivatives, and heavily commodities activities are taking place. That could easily ramp up the appetite of the foreigners to take a position in the country itself. So regulation is the key element to create the opportunity for the market players to do more, at the same time to invite the others to take a position in the country itself. The second element is the market structure. The market structure should be giving the comfort area to the foreign investors that they will be able to play with the rules that they are familiar with. Turkey did a great job. The liberalization of the market had commenced in 2006. And a huge group of people really did put their heart into that. and they had analyzed what had happened in the liberalization process of UK and also the other European countries. All lessons learned and best practices had been reflected to our legislative environment. We need to repeat the same and follow the things, especially to address the need of reaching to an in-depth trading market, and also at the same time allowing the generators, the generation market players, to act and play with the rules that they are familiar with. On those, we started to have certain gaps that keeps some of the potential investors hesitate to take a position in the country. But having said that, whenever I do make a presentation related to dynamics of the Turkey, I do see the sparkle in the eyes of these potential investors. They do see the potential. They do see the advantage. They do see that they can initiate really signature projects or change in the country itself. So I think with less, we can achieve more. That's what I do believe in.
And obviously, as the investment office, we're working very hard to be able to pull these investors into Turkey to showcase the country as an investment country.
To encourage others, maybe I should also add, Enerjisa Üretim is a joint venture of Turkish conglomerate Sabancı Holding and European utility E.ON. This organization right now is about to ink the paper for financing our YEKA-2 projects with an amount of $1 billion. So $1 billion is going to be flowing into the country where the majority of the club, of the lenders are the foreign organizations. So Turkey could do it and can do it and will do it.
And has institutions that needs to be trusted.
Yes.
Brilliant. So Ihsan, when will we see the outcome of this new investment?
For this YEKA-2, the first power plant commissioned at the end of 2023. The first power plant is already operational. By the end of the year, we are planning to put 3 other power plants into operation. 2 are located at Çanakkale and 1 is located at Balıkesir. One of the things that I will be sharing in a proud manner is one of these power plants will be run and operated entirely by women. The power plant manager, the power plant engineers, technicians, and also our original equipment supplier, Enercon. Their technicians also will be women. That's an initiative that we were tired of the male dominance in the business and started to invest to open the doors for the women to take the proper positions in the renewable especially, and things are paying off. I'm really glad and proud to say that we have right now women technicians on board, women engineers on board, and we continue to recruit them. But on this power plant that we are going to put into operation, I hope we will have an opportunity to pay a visit to there, and you will be seeing that the entire team is women.
I would definitely love to see that. Brilliant, Ihsan. Well, that's all I have for you today. Thank you very much for being with us. It's been a pleasure, and I'm sure that our listeners are going to enjoy this episode.
The pleasure is mine. Many thanks.
In today's episode with İhsan Erbil Bayçöl, we spoke about how Enerjisa Üretim has diversified its portfolio and increased investment in renewable energy with the aim of addressing the social needs of today. We talk about Turkey's energy sector in general and what the country can do to increase FDI in this market. You can find our podcast on all streaming platforms, and for more updates and information, follow Invest in Turkey on social media. Stay tuned for more episodes where we'll be talking more about investment in Turkey.